Hello students, welcome to the pole science of class 11 arts, and today we will proceed discussing about the important points related to chapter number 4, that is executive. So let us proceed then. So the first point related to chapter number 4 executive is that in a democracy the government is divided into three organs. As we know that these are independent organs and they can look into each other's work, but they are independent in nature. And whatever the work they are looking after each other is known as checks and balances. That means they check the developmental progress of the three organs, and in the other way they also work independently so that all the work related activities related to these three organs can go smoothly. So in a democracy the government is divided into three organs, namely the legislative, the executive and the judiciary. Now, number 2, the legislature and the executive are interdependent in a parliamentary system. So if we talk about the parliamentary system, the legislature, that means the law-making body, and the executive, that is executing body, are interdependent in a parliamentary system. That means they are interdependent on each other. The legislature frames the laws and the executive enforces them to run the administration. So first of all, whatever the laws or the framing of law is required, that framing of law is done by the legislature. After the framing of laws by the legislature, the executive enforces them to run the administration. Whatever the law is framed, after that particular law is enforced by the executive. So for that reason only it is rightly being said that both the executive and legislature are interdependent in a parliamentary system. In such a manner, the legislature controls the executive and in turn it is controlled by the executive. And in the same way, the framing of laws is done by the legislature and the enforcement of that law is done by the executive. Like the same way, the legislature controls the executive and vice versa, the executive also controls the legislature. So different types of executives are parliamentary, semi-presidential, presidential, monarchical or ceremonial, etc. So these are the different types of executive that are present all over the world. Some of the countries have parliamentary form of government, some have semi-presidential form of government, some have presidential form of government, some countries have monarchical government, or some countries might also have ceremonial type of government. So for that reason only the types of executive that are present may be of parliamentary, maybe that executive body can be semi-presidential also, presidential also. So this depends, or the form of executive that are to be present depends on the form of government in a particular country. A distinction can be made between the parliamentary and the presidential executive. So when it comes to the distinction, that means if we have to differentiate between the executives of different countries, the differentiation or distinction may be made between the parliamentary and presidential executive, because the system of the political atmosphere is very different when we compare that between the parliamentary form of government and the presidential form of government. In that particular scenario only the executives can be differentiated. So in a parliamentary system, the real head of the executive is the prime minister and the president is the nominal head. So if we talk about the parliamentary system, and this parliamentary system is there in our own country, that is India, where the real head of the executive is the prime minister. That means the prime minister of India is the real head of the executive and the president is the nominal head. That means maximum work is being done by the prime minister, whereas a minimum work is there for the president. So for that reason only, in our country, which follows parliamentary system of government, here the prime minister is the real head and the president is the nominal head. After that, the prime minister is assisted by the council of ministers and advises the president. So if the prime minister is real head in our country India, and in a parliamentary system we know that there are two chambers, that is Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha, and the candidates who fights elections and the particular candidate who won and formed government, that is actually being sent to the Lok Sabha, that is also known as the House of the People. And the reason for that is that in Lok Sabha there are total of 543 members being elected from all over India. So that is actually elected by the direct voting process. So the party which gets the majority or the alliance which gets the majority forms the government, and the leader of that party is elected as the prime minister, and other portfolios are being divided by the prime minister himself, such as there are various departments related to education minister, that may be defense minister, textile minister. So there are different portfolios being given to the party that forms the governments. So when the party forms the government, it becomes the prime minister as the head of that party, and he or she is assisted by his council of ministers. Clear? That means in order to form the government, 272 seats are needed. When these 272 seats are being declared for majority, then what happens? This becomes 272 number of ministers. So in the same way, the prime minister and his council of ministers actually advises the president in each and every matter after forming the government. Now next point, the president enjoys the right to be informed of all important matters and functioning of the council of ministers. And if the council of ministers and prime minister is there to assist and to advise the president actually enjoys the right to be informed. That means every important decisions, every advices, if it is to be informed by the council of ministers and prime ministers, the president actually enjoys the right to be informed. He is informed about everything, and about everything related to all the matters and functioning of the council of ministers also. So in this way, the president, being the nominal head, also enjoys every rights to be informed and every matters and functioning related to the council of ministers. After that, there comes the vice president. The vice president is the ex officio chairman of the Rajya Sabha and acts for the president when the office of the president falls vacant. So after president comes the vice president. The vice president is also the ex officio chairman of the Rajya Sabha. That means the upper house is known as the Rajya Sabha in India, and the ex officio chairman of the Rajya Sabha is the vice president. And whenever the president is out of the country, then at that moment the president, in place of the president, or suppose if the president is outside the country, or if the post of the president is vacant, at that time who takes over and looks after the post? The vice president itself. So being the ex officio chairman of the Rajya Sabha also, on the other hand, he or she may also act as the president when the post of the president is lying vacant. In that particular time, the vice president can take over that post. So with this, I will wind up today's topic related to the discussions of important points from the chapter executive. So make a note down of all these important points in your copy. So with this, I am winding up today's topic. Thank you.